Welcome to the Church Answers Podcast. My name is Thom Rainer. Jeff Rainer is on vacation. And don't get bored right away just because I'm going to talk about a single number. I think when we talk about a single number, we're able to explain things about the local church that are helpful to you as a church leader, as a church member. And just stay tuned. You'll probably enjoy some of the information I'm about to share. One of the things I want to share with you is exciting information that we have a new sponsor. And our new sponsor is Wesley Biblical Seminary. Wesley Biblical Seminary is focused on developing trusted leaders for faithful churches. They have certificates, bachelor degrees, master degrees, and doctoral degrees, and they've been around since 1974. They're committed to the inerrancy and authority of Scripture, and they've been transforming others through the power of the Holy Spirit. They've got a flexible online format that can fit your schedule. They've been equipping men and women called by God, and they've got a wide array of programs and offerings to give you. So if you learn more, go to Wesley Biblical Seminary if you want to learn more, and then give them a call, give them an email, and talk to them. This is one of the up-and-coming seminaries. Even though they've been around since 1974, they're really beginning to do some very cool things. And we at Church Answers are encouraged and excited to have a relationship with them, particularly the fact that they are the primary sponsor of the Church Answers podcast. So you'll be hearing a lot about them in the future and in the weeks and days and months ahead. So stay tuned as you listen to Wesley Biblical Seminary's offerings on the Church Answers podcast. So what are we going to do today? Well, we're going to look at some information from a research project. Now, here's what I like to do. Call me a nerd if you want to. Probably the description fits. I like to go to bodies of research and pull out one number and try to figure out what are the implications of that number? How did they arrive at it? What is it there for the local church to find out? You know, we mentioned many times our friend Ryan Burge. Well, Ryan likes to look at large swaths of research, connect them all together and say, here's what they mean all together. I take a different approach, not a better approach, just a different approach. And I go in and I look at one of the single numbers in the research, and I try to provide to you what that means for the local church. So, having said that, let's go in and get the number. The number is 70.5%. That's not a round number. I'm sorry. That's the way the research turned out. 70.5%. What does that number mean? 70.5% of churches share their facilities with other organizations. Where do we get this information? We got it from the 2023 FACT, or Faith Communities Today study, an incredible study with thousands and thousands of churches in it. And not only does it have the large quantity, it's longitudinal, which means it is done on a regular basis. Usually it's done every 5 years, but they had an update in 2023 because of all the changes with the data related to COVID. And so they're always updating the data. They're keeping it current. And it is a massive study. The number of churches they're studying. It's one of the best sources of research on the church that you can have. So this number, 70.5%, comes from the 2023 Faith Community Study, which we'll also call FACT, one of the most comprehensive studies of American congregations. So let's get into it. Here's what they noted. In this study, 2023, they noted that 70.5% of the congregations surveyed share their buildings with other groups. We're going to talk about those groups in just a moment, but let me just ask you this. I understand this isn't an interactive podcast, but let me ask you this. Does that surprise you? Nearly three quarters, 70.5% of churches share their facilities with other organizations. When I first saw it, it did surprise me. When I think of a church, I don't necessarily think of another organization that is in that facility at sometimes. But here's what I started doing. I had the opportunity to speak in front of a lot of people, a lot of church leaders, both on an in-person basis and on a streaming or digital basis. And there will be from time to time, I will ask that question. How many of you are in a church that shares its facilities? We recently had a group that we spoke to in Franklin, Tennessee. It's called the Platinum Group. Is one of our levels of coaching and consulting. And we have them to Franklin or to Braden and different places on a regular basis. And we ask them I asked them that question as I was presenting. I said, how many of you are in churches that have shared facilities? The response was right around 3/4 of them. So once again, 70.5% of these churches, not 75, 70.5% of these churches are sharing their facilities with other organizations. And again, when I said about 3/4 of these in the conference where I was, I did not get a precise number, but it looked to be around 3 out of 4. So what do we need to know about this? What are the implications about this? What is it that we just gravitate toward as leaders of churches, and what can we do with this? Well, first of all, we just have to recognize that this is a surprising majority. Once you get 7 out of 10 churches doing anything, it is becoming truly a common practice. It breaks the stereotype that you often hear about churches that they only use their church for church reasons. In fact, quite the opposite is true. 70.5% of these churches are using their facilities with other organizations. Now, when that's all said and done, the obvious question becomes, well, who uses that space? They're all over the place. Nonprofits, schools, daycare centers, recovery groups, civic clubs, government programs, and sometimes even other congregations. Now, what about other congregations? Well, let me give you an example of one of the churches. One of the churches said, well, we have our own services, of course, in our church, but you know what else we have? We have a church that is Hispanic meeting in our church. That is their first language is not English. And so they meet in another area of the church during the time of one of their church services. And I began to go around asking other people. Then another person responded and said, well, we have a homeschool co-op that meets in our church. And a homeschool co-op is obviously a group of young people and teachers that come together that are most of the time in their homes being taught by parents, but then they get together for aggregate activities in education. And this church says we regularly have a homeschool co-op in our church. Others said, well, you know what we have? We have a Celebrate Recovery program in our church. Many of you know about Celebrate Recovery. And they said this has been great for not only our members, but for the community as well. So what is the conclusion of this? This makes churches one of the most important community landlords in America. I mean, have you ever thought about that? Churches are right there among the most important landlords in communities. It's not that the church is just making a difference with its ministry services and worship services. They're making a difference by hosting people, hosting organizations that are helping the community many times as well. Who uses the space? It is a wide variety of people, of organizations that use the space. But you got to love it, because a church facility, at least stereotypically, many people think it's only used on Sunday and then 6 days a week is vacant. Well, quite contrary, that is not the case. When it is all said and done, churches are being highly stewardship focused, highly Great Commission focused, highly community focused by letting others use their facilities. So here's an obvious question. Why should you share facilities? My guess is that you probably already have some answers in your head, in your mind right there. But let's just look at them. One is financial stewardship. Many churches share the cost of their facility with another organization. And I know many people say, well, if it's a ministry, shouldn't we let them do it for free? Well, if that's your conviction, so be it. But listen, when you let another organization use your facility for free, what you're doing is you're basically saying there's less ministry resources available for the church, because somebody's got to pay for the insurance. Somebody's got to pay for the utilities. Someone has to assume the liability. And if you are not sharing that with other churches, then, or other organizations using your church, then you may be doing some harm to your own church. So why share it? Financial stewardship, offering cost, offsetting cost, and generating new income. What's another one? Outreach in the community. Seeing the building as a resource for the community, not just a place for the holy huddle, but a place to reach into the community. And so the building itself can become a missional outreach. The building itself can become that type of place that is making a difference in the community. And so it truly has missional value. One other reason, practical necessity. In many declining congregations, they just have too much space. Sadly, they were built for a time when they had greater attendance. They were built for a time perhaps when they had more groups or Sunday school classes meeting. They were built for a time when worship attendance was larger, and they really have declined to the point that their facilities are too big for them. Now, that's not a good thing. But as churches seek to revitalize, as church leaders seek to move the church to the next level, it is a good thing that they have other organizations that can help them pay for the expenses, offset the expenses of their facilities. So why churches share facilities? Financial stewardship, missional or community outreach, and practical necessity. When you talk about community outreach, almost in the same breath, you have to start talking about Upward Sports. I know they're a sponsor. I know that we have that type of relationship, but that's not the primary relationship the Church Answers has with Upward. We discovered Upward because we were talking to churches that were using Upward. And we kept hearing of more and more churches that were not only using the ministry of Upward, but they were also churches that were growing and reaching their community as a result of that. That began a relationship with Church Answers and with Upward. Now that I just think it's one of the most incredible relationships that you could ask for, that we certainly could ask for, we're overjoyed to have it. They have so many sports. What does Upward do? Upward is a sports ministry designed for the church to reach the community. And it started with basketball, but my goodness, it has so many sports now. Basketball, soccer, flag football, cheerleading, volleyball, baseball, and guess what else they have? Pickleball. I love pickleball. No. I love saying pickleball. They now have pickleball. They also have running, which may be one of the easiest things to do, just to host a 5K. But they have pickleball. They have a variety of sports for every church. So with pickleball being the newest offering, you can get 2 net sets for free if you sign up with them to bring pickleball to your church. It is a turnkey operation. They'll tell you everything you need, what you need. They'll take you through the process. It is nothing like it. If you really want to reach your community, there are a lot of sports that they can afford for you, but the one that is really growing is pickleball, and you might want to look at it. Okay, so we've been talking about community outreach. We've been talking about reaching into the community with facilities, and of course, I then segued to Upward Sports. But let's answer another question. What are some of the benefits for the church that allows their facilities to be used by the organizations? Now, I realize that there's some overlap in this because we answered the question why, and one of those answers was stewardship, and there's a financial benefit to many churches that are sharing facilities with other organizations. But let's look at the overall benefits. 1, stronger community relationship and visibility. When you have another organization using your facilities, a homeschool co-op, another school, another organization, you know what you're doing? You're telling them we're here. And not only are we here, but we are here for you. We care about our community, which means we care about you who are in this other organization. And so you begin to see a greater community outreach relationship, and you become more visible in the community. I heard of one church that was known because they have done so many Celebrate Recovery types of organizations in their churches. They've hosted them. He said, the pastor said, well, for all practical purposes, we're known now as the Celebrate Recovery Church. And even though it's another organization, they're having many people come to their church through that other organization. And that's a second benefit. A second benefit is a steady stream of people coming onto the property that who might not have attended otherwise. So these are people that didn't plan to come to your church as a church. They came to your church facility for another organization. So that is a very, very exciting thing when you begin to see people who are actually coming to your church. Many church members think that the way to grow is to put up a billboard or put something on your website and say, come now, we've got everything ready for you. Y'all come to our place. Well, in some ways, this actually fulfills that desire. I don't want churches to think that's the only way they should reach people. But in many ways, when you begin to have someone share your facilities, then you are seeing the opportunity to see that steady stream of people coming onto your property who might not come otherwise. This one is so important for me as a benefit for the church. Another benefit for the church is evangelism. I don't know what organization that we are going to be talking about when we talk about what organization is sharing your facilities, but that same pastor that was telling me about Celebrate Recovery in his church said that he has lost count of the number of people who became followers of Christ through Celebrate Recovery and then connected with the church because they were already in the church building. And many times these organizations will actually let you talk to the people who are in these other organizations about Christ. So it's a great opportunity. It's an opportunity for churches not only to see a steady stream of people come on the property who might not attend otherwise, but to evangelize them as well. Finally, fifth reason. A fifth point. Let me put it that way, not a fifth reason. Fifth point. I don't want us to assume that everything goes well when we share our facilities. There are some challenges and there are some tensions. For example, visible, obvious wear and tear on the facilities. It increases maintenance needs. Think about a church that allows a school to use its facilities. Kids are going to wear down the facilities. That's just part of it. And you have to be prepared to share the cost, hopefully, or to share the ability to do something about this wear and tear with the other party who is using your building. Those type of decisions need to be made on the front end, by the way. You don't need to make them at the last minute thinking that everything's going to work out right. Another one is schedule conflicts. Well, the homeschool co-op said, I thought we could use this for assembly tonight. Well, we have a church function going on. I don't remember you asking that. And my guess is if you have another organization in your church that you have run into those scheduling conflicts, and as a result, you have to make some tough decisions. Another challenge is just the balance between generosity and sustainability. When does sharing your facility turn into strain instead of ministry? That's a rhetorical question. I don't have the answer to that, but you need to be prepared to know that that is probably going to happen. Now, what will we say with sharing your facilities? Make sure you have done all your due diligence. Make sure you have the insurance covered from the party using the facility to the church that is hosting them. Make sure you have clear agreements, that you have delineated them. And yes, put them in writing. Why, Tom? Isn't this a ministry agreement? Why should I get informal? Why should it be as formal as putting it in writing? Because guess what? Leaders change. People that were there at the beginning are not there now. And if you don't have some type of record of this, assumptions will be made that are often in error. So, yes, it's a good thing. At the same time, it has its challenges. But the number is this: 70.5%. Now that tells me something, folks. When 7 out of 10 churches have some organization using their facility, that tells me that there are reasons that it's taking place. And most of the time, it's a good reason. Most of the time, it is a right reason. Now, I'd love to know this. You can put a comment in the podcast. By the way, if you're listening on your favorite app, give us a rating and review. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can subscribe, you can comment, you can give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you're here. But maybe you can comment too. Yeah, we have a church. We have a church that shares its facilities. What is that? What is that organization? What do they do? And how's it going? And what are the opportunities? And what are the challenges? We would love to hear from you, because this is an absolute trend that I was taken aback by the magnitude of the number. 7 out of 10, 70.5% to be precise, in this study, this incredible study that was done by FACT, or the Faith Communities Today study. This is Faith Communities Today study. This has been a marvelous wake-up call for me. I realize that churches share their facilities. I just did not realize the magnitude of it. Once again, what's that magnitude? The magnitude is 70.5%. Hey, let me just remind you again, as we're wrapping things up, Wesley Biblical Seminary is our new sponsor. Incredible organization. They love the local church. They are not tied to one specific denomination. They believe in the full authority of Scripture. They're growing, and although numbers are not everything, it's an indication that God is blessing them and that they are moving in a direction that is being watched out and certainly affirmed by many people, students and churches alike. They have a complete online schedule. So even though you can take classes otherwise, you can take everything online. They're equipping men and women who are called by God, lay people, pastors, staff, and it is a very incredible seminary. If you'd like to learn more, visit Wesley Biblical Seminary. Go to the website and see what is taking place. So what's the church number? The church number for this podcast is 70.5%. Right around 7 out of 10 churches have other organizations that use their facilities. I hope I've given you some of the implications of that, and even more so, I hope you thought about some of the opportunities of that number as well. From time to time, we'll continue to talk about a church number. I won't bore you to death with numbers all the time, but every now and then when I see a kind of number like this, it jumps out at me, and the implications, we'll be back and we'll be talking about it more. My name is Thom Rainer. Jeff Rainer has been on vacation. He'll be back shortly, and we will continue to look at the Church Answers podcast, where we seek to help churches become healthier to reach their communities for the glory of God.